Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. You're watching Maine Biz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Before ever entering politics, Chellie Pingree was a small business owner on the island of North Haven. Her first foray into politics beyond the local level was in 1992 when she was elected to the first of her 4 terms in the Maine State Senate. In 2008, Chellie was elected to represent Maine's 1st congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives, where she serves on the Agriculture and Armed Services Committee. Welcome. Glad you could be here, Representative Pingree.
Very glad to be here.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what a great time. You picked 2008 to go to the federal Congress. What great timing. I mean, the economy tanks, and then you have this midterm elections issue.
Yeah, they say you don't take these jobs for the easy times. It's been a challenge, let's say.
Exactly.
This is a challenge for everybody right now, dealing with this economy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that brings up a lot of the policy issues we want to talk about.
Sure.
On this program, we have a lot of state regulators and policymakers and politicians in all the time talking about state issues that affect businesses. But we really want to take a weekend to really talk about what's happening at the federal level and how does that impact our businesses. So I'm just going to run through some issues and have you weigh in on them.
Sure.
First of all, I just want you to give us a general assessment of where do you think the economy is. Are we heading on the right track? We seem to be getting some movement. There is recovery, but it's always very fragile. And the follow-up question that's going to be, did the stimulus work? So tell me what you think.
Both good questions. I think we see some hopeful signs in the economy. I hear it back in the district when I'm home in Maine on the weekends. People talk a little bit about the tourism business. Bookings are up. People have, generally slightly better feelings. At the national level, we're seeing a little bit better jobs numbers. But of course, we're all worried about the cost of oil. That's a huge impact on our own state. We're very dependent on heating oil. The cost of gasoline is a big issue in our state. We're a rural state, so it has a even bigger impact here in Maine, I think, than it does nationally. But nationally, it has the power to have an impact on the economy that pulls us back towards the recession. We are all watching what's going on in the Middle East very carefully, and we've seen with, what went on in Egypt and certainly what's going on in Libya right now, so much unrest in the Middle East countries, and if that moves to Saudi Arabia, where we are incredibly dependent on foreign oil. There's already, issues going on in Bahrain, where some people say it's kind of a bellwether of what might happen in Saudi Arabia. That's the danger zone for us. That's where you get into $200 barrel oil. Right.
And let's stay with that gas price issue, because that's a question I had too. Because of the turmoil in the Middle East, you support the release of strategic petroleum reserves. The president has talked about doing that, and you support that. And you're quoted as saying that oil prices could go down by at least 10% and possibly as much as a third. And you go on to say that big oil companies are taking advantage of the situation in oil-producing countries to drive up prices with speculation. Tell me more about that. I mean, I've done a program on gas prices, but I can't,
Look, it's hard to get your hands around.
How do we document that speculation stuff? What do we do about it?
And, I mean, a release from the Strategic Oil Reserve won't solve the problem. It might help us in the short run.
What do we do? Cut by a third?
Some estimates are that high. I mean, my feeling is in the long run, we have to get ourselves back to the question of ending our dependence on foreign oil. We were there 2 years ago. That was a big part of the energy bill. And Maine is one of those states that really benefits. We've gotten a lot of money for weatherization. Some of that money is proposed to be cut. There's been investments, and there's a lot of interest in the Department of Energy on offshore wind and alternative energy that would help us here. Investments in solar energy, tidal power. I mean, that's good for our state. It's good for jobs, and it helps us end our dependence on foreign oil. So, we can talk about these short-term issues, the issues of speculation and the strategic oil reserves, but really, I want to see us on a policy matter, not every 4 years come back to this issue and say, oh, yeah, we were going to change our dependence on, this foreign oil, which has a lot to do with why we're at war, which is a very expensive thing for us, our country, and our vulnerability to terrorism. I'm so disappointed that we can't keep our focus on moving ahead.
Let me ask a follow-up on that then, too. President Obama is famous for saying, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, we can do more than one thing, but clearly that the healthcare ball of gum that took up a lot of chewing power. Enough of that analogy. Anyhow, but you know what I'm saying. So for that 2 year period, you really had to focus on that to get it done. and that became a priority. And I think, did energy then fall off the table? Did it get pushed to the back?
Well,
and if so, would you have changed those now, knowing what you know now?
Actually, the energy bill passed in the House first.
Yeah.
So we did the energy bill first, and I was very excited to be on the side of supporting that. That got bogged down in the Senate, and I think it got bogged down because big oil companies, did not like the idea, and a lot of the members of the Senate got caught in the debate of, is there global warming or not?
Right.
Well, however you feel about global warming, we are stuck in, a terrible danger to our economy, and that is the price of oil. So,
Okay.
I think we should keep moving forward.
Real quick question, follow up on that then. One more on the energy piece. Is carbon credit, that concept, is it dead?
Good question. I mean, it wasn't dead in the House.
Yeah,
We moved forward on that issue. It died in the Senate. Whether or not it can come back in this economic climate.
Yeah, and with this new legislation.
Look, this particular Congress doesn't want to do anything about carbon credits. But let's hope oil prices drive us back into that debate, because it's critical.
Yeah, well, let's move on to healthcare costs. Because also when we talk to businesses here every week, in fact, the Maine Development Foundation and the State Chamber of Commerce did their surveys last year, and they had asked businesses to rank what the number 1 through 20 negative impacts in their business are. Cost of healthcare always comes out number 1.
Right.
So clearly that's a big issue, and you've been involved in that. You can, on the national health care bill, I guess there's really 3 choices, right? Leave it as good as it is, repeal it, or fix it. I don't think you want to repeal it. In fact, you want to stand up against repeal in that irresponsible and wasteful, bogus reasons behind repeal, you said, which is fine. So where are you? Are you on the leave it as it is, or are you on the fix it side?
Well, there's a lot of things we can fix.
Great. What should we fix?
Okay, so to begin with, we already voted to get rid of this 1099 requirement, which was kind of dumb from the beginning. I own a small business. I couldn't imagine how we were going to comply with it. I think everybody knew from the start that had to be fixed. There are a lot of places where the states can weigh in, but frankly, I think we have to begin implementing this. This takes quite a while to get to the point of actually having it all repaired, but a lot of pieces have already come forward. Seniors right now don't have to pay co-pays under Medicare for preventative care. You're allowed to keep your child on your plan up to age 26. There's a lot of good things in the plan that are already beginning, but at the same time, we have this huge uprising of really the Republicans in Congress who are saying, let's just repeal the whole thing. And I look at it and say, okay, if you do that, how are you going to repair this system? Because frankly, I hear exactly what you hear from small businesses who say, and from big businesses, they can't afford this. They can't afford letting insurance companies, set what the price of insurance will going to be. Look, I come from Maine, as you know, and when I go down and tell my colleagues that over 50% of the members of the Maine Medical Association voted for single-payer health care, I come from a state where a lot of people feel we didn't go far enough. Business owners, physicians, they wanted us to go further.
Does the fact that the state, there's been a change in the state, too, there's kind of a different wind that's blown through the state of Maine, does the fact that Maine is now going to be signing on to the lawsuits that are trying to contest the constitutionality of the health care bill, does that change how your effectiveness or what you would be able to do with health care in Maine?
Well, I'm disappointed. I mean, I think it's a cost that the state shouldn't be spending at a time when, there's difficulties balancing the budget in this state. I realize that, there's an ideological difference between myself and the governor on that particular issue. But on the other hand, Maine was poised to figure out how to use some of the opportunities in the health care plan we passed to cover more people in the state, to reduce costs for small businesses, and that's not going to proceed forward. So I'm disappointed because Maine was actually in a very good place at helping to reduce costs, and this administration's taking a different turn. It's a difference of opinion.
Right. We're going to have to wrap this segment right here, but stick with us. We're going to have a lot more to discuss. Stay with us. We'll be right back to continue our discussion of federal politics and policies with Representative Chellie Pingree.